Well, here we are then, Archant Towers, Ipswich. It is Wednesday, May the 30th, and after 63 days, 63 days, Ipswich Town have a new manager. Obviously that broke this morning. Paul Hurst is the new man at Portman Road, literally just across the road from us. My name's Mark Heath, with me as ever Stuart Watson, Andy Warren, the football writers here, and we're going to be obviously discussing that breaking news. First of all, boys, snap verdicts.
Excited. I think it's the right type of appointment, the calculated risk that I think everyone was looking for. Someone that's up and coming, younger, and it definitely feels like the start of a new era for the football club.
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? A new era, it feels fresh, it feels new, and it all feels positive. I think an 85%-ish approval rating for him on our polls. Everyone's behind him, ready to go, new era.
I was doing a little bit before I came in here on fan reaction online, and there's overwhelming positivity, it's got to be said, on Twitter certainly. It's very hard to find any negative comments. Everyone is 100% behind Paul Hurst, which is great to see. Fans are united behind him, and as you say, New Year is about to begin. As ever with these Facebook Lives, we want to get you involved as much as possible, so please get your get your questions in, and we'll do our best to answer them as you go along. We'll have a quick chat to begin with though, first of all, if we could, boys. Stuart, Paul Hurst, what do we know about him overall? Because obviously he's come from lower leagues, been very successful, got promoted with Grimsby.
Brief snapshot is he was basically a one-club man as a player at Rotherham, racked up nearly 500 appearances for them, a left-back as a player, and he's worked his way up from the bottom, hasn't he? He's had spells in non-league with Ilkeston and Boston, got promotions with both of them. The big success was at Grimsby, getting them back into the Football League after what was a kind of a Burley-esque falling at the final hurdle, I think 4 times in the playoffs, and eventually they get promoted to the Football League. And of course it's Shrewsbury where he's made his name in the last 18 months, taking them from bottom of League One to a third place finish, and obviously just missing out at Wembley on Sunday.
Yeah, with a very limited budget as well, wasn't it, in that league? Hardly any funds to play.
Predicted to go down 23rd. I think he had it up on their dressing room wall, didn't he? That we are rubbish. He'd written on this predictions from the pundits that said they'd finish 23rd. Finished third.
And Andy, you watched the playoff final on Sunday. Any kind of inkling as to what kind of football Paul Hurst likes to play?
I think it's a bit unfair to maybe judge him on that game. It's a Wembley final. Wembley finals are always tight and cagey affairs, but I actually thought it was quite an open game for a playoff final, a bit end to end. Shrewsbury on the back foot for the first half, found their way in the second half, got the ball moving through John Nolan, who's probably their Emma Hughes type, can use the ball well and move it, but just missed out for 2 set-piece goals which let them down. But it's got to be said, the set-piece goal they did score was spectacular. Looking forward to a bit of that. Really neat stuff, playing the ball intricately in, and a good finish. So more of that, please.
Absolutely. Just some quotes obviously from this morning when the club put them out. Marcus Evans said that Hurst was his first choice all along. So we think this has been in the works for a while, don't we, Stu? I know you did the first story linking Hurst back in start of May, wasn't it?
We had Paul Hurst on the back page of both newspapers on the 1st of May, just looking back through the archives this morning. That's when we first got the whispers that he was very much one of the forerunners. So I don't think this kind of narrative of Marcus Evans saying he was always my number one choice. I've seen a few cynics saying that this is a little bit of backtracking after missing out on Jack Ross and others. I genuinely do think from the discussions that we've had that this isn't a rewriting of history, that very quickly Marcus Evans, who has done some very deep due diligence in terms of getting a shortlist down from about 100 to 10, has always had Hurst in the back of his mind. He was waiting till the players were out of the way on Sunday, and they've moved pretty quickly. It's a shame that it's got a little bit messy with this talks about tapping up and illegal approaches and all the rest of it, but I think Ipswich had tried to do things the right way. They needed to have a few quiet assurances that Hurst would be interested and that the compensation figure would be affordable, and then they've basically stepped back and let them focus on Shrewsbury. But of course, once Sunday was out of the way, they've had to move pretty quick.
And Andy, you've been doing a bit online this morning. What's Hurst had to say about the move himself?
I think he's excited. I think he sees it as a challenge. It's a step up for him, a new era for him and a new era for the club, and he's excited by that. He knows that he has to hit the ground running and will be judged from the off, which I think any football manager is at their new club, but also stress that the players will be judged from the off too.
Absolutely. And you may be wondering why you're sitting here watching us rather than Paul Hurst giving his first press conference at Ipswich Town. That's because he's on holiday, isn't it?
He's in Dubai.
He's in Dubai at the moment, so I'm sure he's earned that, and we'll come back to town refreshed and ready to start this new era at town. Without further ado, then let's get to a few of your questions, Stu, if you could, my glamorous assistant. We start at the bottom. Nathan King Thoughts on Chris Dewey as assistant? Now, obviously, that's the assistant's coming over with him from Shrewsbury. Andy, you know a lot about Chris Dewey?
They go back away. Dewey was a former teammate of Luke Chambers actually at Northampton, is worth saying. So they'll be reunited. But he linked up with Paul Hurst at Grimsby, where he was a player, became player assistant before packing in playing, became assistant, followed him to Shrewsbury. And I think he's a good foil for Paul Hurst by the sounds of things. A little and large combo in terms of height. One is significantly shorter than the other.
Yeah.
But I think they work really well by the sounds of things as a pair. Chris Doig works with players, helps improve players, much in the way that Terry Connor did. I think we heard a lot about Terry Connor, particularly in shooting practices, and we had a lot about that, didn't we, about getting over the first man and things like that. Chris Doig has done that with players. I think he played quite a big role with Omar Bogle at Grimsby, who scored a lot of the goals that got them promoted in 2016, and he's credited with a lot of that.
Superb. George Huggins is on as ever. George, good to have you on board. Great to have you with us. George says, 2 questions. Will Sears be given a chance up front in the middle? He's back to his best towards the end of last season. And also any news on the Bart contract, the question we get every time we do one of these. So first of all, Sears, will he get a chance, you think, up top?
Well, it depends what formation Paul Hurst wants to play. I think he's been very much a 4-2-3-1 man, whatever variation, whatever numbers you want to put on that at Shrewsbury. It's been one up front, and it's tended to be Carlton Morris, a proper number 9 on loan from the youngster on loan from Norwich, barrel-chested striker, and then they play off of him. Nolan, who Andy's mentioned, it kind of plays just in behind as a kind of attacking midfielder and 2 wingers. So if he favours that formation at Ipswich, the answer is probably no in terms of Freddie Sears. He's gone from the high of finishing last season on a high, wondering, am I going to be in the new manager's plans? It depends on what Hurst wants to do. I think formally to Shrewsbury, he was seen as a 4-4-2 man, and I think Paul's made it pretty clear that he's not going to come in with a set way of playing. He's going to assess the squad, the players at his disposal, and he may well decide that 4-4-2 is the formation for him. So we'll have to wait and see what setup he wants and whether Freddie fits into that.
Thoughts? Can we get the Bart contract one out of the way?
Let's do the Bart contract, go.
It's not moved on.
No, it's easy. Nothing's happened.
He's with Poland. I think the Poland squad's for the proper Poland squad for the World Cup's named on Monday, and I think that's at the forefront of his mind at the moment. But he was in the kit shoot.
He was.
People liked that.
Yeah.
He was in the kit shoot.
Of course. What did you think of the kits? That's the other big bit of news that came out yesterday. Let us know what you thought of those kits. One very bright one.
Yes, which is brighter than the pictures suggest.
Apparently, yeah. Brighter than the sun.
Yeah, that's what we've been told, that the pictures do not do justice to how bright the kit is. Now, I find that staggering because it looks pretty bright in the kit, these various shades of orange. It's been compared to sort of stewards and workmen's
might call him the bin man
and various things. But listen, I think the players love playing in orange, and I know the players are heavily consulted as to what they like, and I think they like the visibility factor in terms of being it sounds a silly thing, but in terms of being able to see each other and pick each other out on the pitch. Our photographers will be happy because under the lights it makes it a lot easier to photograph as well. So, and of course orange has been a successful kit for Ipswich Town over the years. The last time they wore it was in the playoff season under Mick McCarthy, and it's been associated with success going further back. So orange has gone down well. Home kits got a split opinion, I think.
That's grown on me overnight, actually. I watched the little video that Ipswich put out. When I first saw it, I wasn't a big fan, but I watched the video they put out, and it's grown on me a little bit. Not that my opinion matters in fashion matters.
And there's going to be a sponsor on the back of the shorts as well, isn't there, next season?
Yeah,
which is interesting.
Nicholas Estates. Yeah,
okay.
First time they've had that.
Let us know what you think about that. We'll get back to some more questions now, George. Hopefully that answered your 2 questions. Peter John says, great news, can't wait for August. Paul Hurst, Barmy Army. Fantastic, Peter. Where are we now? Nick Abel-Smith, what makes you think, if you do, that Hurst is a better choice than Jack Ross? Interesting. Andy?
I don't think we'll ever know if Paul Hurst was a better choice than Jack Ross, so that's the beauty of football. We'll never know. I think the experience of English football, I think, would be the stand-up thing for me that makes him a better candidate than Jack Ross. Jack Ross excited us all, I think. I think we all like what we read and what we heard about Jack Ross, but Paul Hurst's done it in England. He's got promotions on his CV in England. He knows the market in England, and I think that's valuable. Because at the end of the day, Jack Ross, as exciting as he was he didn't have the CV didn't go back as anywhere near as far as Paul Hurst management CV. So I think there's more experience there, and it's in England, which for me is quite important.
And that knowledge of the lower leagues, Stu, is going to be key as well, isn't it?
It's a big part of the Marcus Evans 5-point plan, isn't it? It's been made patently clear that the budget isn't going to change. So Hurst having success on a budget at Shrewsbury, I think, has been a huge factor in that. And as you say, knowledge of the lower leagues. He's shown at Shrewsbury in League One he's ready to dip down into non-league and trusting players that he's worked with and seen before. So I think Marcus Evans will expect him now to go and find a few hidden gems and work with them on the training ground. And as Andy says, he's done it over a longer period of time. I think he's got a win rate of more than 50% over 500 plus games in management now, which is quite a remarkable stat. I have to be honest, Jack Ross did excite me. I like the prospect of Jack Ross the more I read and saw and heard about him, and I think he really did impress Marcus Evans as well, and to the point where I think he was a genuine contender. But it hasn't happened. Sunderland moved in, they've grabbed him, and as I said earlier, I do genuinely think that Hurst was always the forerunner anyway.
And how interesting a clash between Ipswich and Sunderland next season would be.
Yeah.
The cup competitions. We were talking about that before we came in here, didn't we? Julian Sumner, excellent comment, Julian. Best one so far today. Bacon on holiday again.
He's actually not on holiday.
No, he's actually in the office. He's currently probably on the phone talking about non-league football, which seems to be what he likes to do.
Is he due on holiday soon?
He's due. Yeah, he's taking a holiday at the start of the football season, isn't he?
The bacon slot.
The bacon. There's not a lot going on at the start of that football season, so he'll be off. Jamie Bowden, the free kick they scored, I assume again he's talking about Shrewsbury here in the playoff final. Do you think it will suit a player like Bishop if he can get himself fit? And obviously Teddy Bishop's one of the numerous talented midfielders that are currently cropped on the shelf.
There's a lot of players that could get involved in that. I think Martin Waghorn's got the good. You need good touch to play that. So for anyone that didn't see it, it was just a neat little ball across. Took the Rotherham defence by surprise. A little neat ball into the box, and a player had peeled off the back of the wall, got away from Josh Emmanuel actually to finish. So there's a lot of players that Ipswich would do. Just needs a neat touch, good organisation, and some inventive.
Not the only inventive set piece. I mean, you've seen a bit more of them. There's been all sorts of fancy things going on, hasn't there?
Yeah, lining up at corners. They lined up for a corner with all of their players on the far corner of the penalty area, like all of them, before breaking. I saw one in the semi-final, but they were in single file coming back from the penalty spot to the edge of the area before breaking. I think Martin Waghorn's going to enjoy working with Paul Hurst on these. He seems to have fun on the training ground. I think Martin Waghorn will get involved in these. And Teddy Bishop, to answer the question, yeah, absolutely. If he's fit, he's got the touch to get involved in that.
Brilliant. So hopefully we can see some inventive free kick set pieces next season. Moving on, back to Nick Abel-Smith. Just pointed out, as you said, Andy found him using the free kick completely fooled Josh Emmanuel, who lost his man. So obviously Josh is coming back to town, and with one of the players that Hurst will run the all over. Julian Sumner again. Someone has said the most significant signing since Burley in '94. Surely MM signing in 2003. I think you mean 2013 there, doesn't he? Like McCarthy saved the club. I mean, yeah, that was one of the points that we picked up in the fan reaction, is people are comparing it to the Burley appointment in terms of significance. Do you think there's any comparisons there?
I think there are I think, I'll be honest, I think every appointment is the biggest appointment in their history, because it's the next one, it's the next era. You can't change the past, you can change the future, so you've got to get it right. But yeah, there are comparisons to Burley, aren't there? Look at the CV, it's an up-and-coming CV.
Yeah.
There's a bit of controversy around the appointment as well.
There's certainly similarities, isn't there, in terms of where he's come from and how it's come about. I think George was very much early in his days of management, wasn't he? A brief spell at Ayr and north of the border, and he hadn't been at Colchester very long when they went and got him. Colchester in the fourth tier at the time. So I think I said in the early days of the search for a manager that I wanted Ipswich to take a calculated risk. And if you look at the DNA and the history of this football club, the biggest success stories have been managers that they've taken a risk on. Alf Ramsey, Bobby Robson, they were both young men in their 30s at the time that weren't obvious appointments, and they came off. So Marcus Evans has gone down the sort of tried and trusted experienced route with Jewell and McCarthy, and to a lesser degree Keane, who also had a promotion on his CV at the time. It's not worked to varying degrees, and I think at this juncture it was important that they took a bit of a gamble, a calculated gamble, and that's what this is.
Edward King, what's happening with the fitness and goalkeeping coach? Any updates there?
Good question.
No updates, but what has happened in that is that Malcolm Webster, the goalkeeping coach, has retired, and Andy Liddell, the fitness coach, has left at the end of his contract. And the only two that have come from Shrewsbury are Hurst and Chris Doig, so there are still vacancies there. And yesterday, it turns out a few of the other staff at Shrewsbury weren't quite in the loop over what's going on, and I understand they're still not. So it could well be looking for new people in that regard. I'm sure Paul's thinking about that now on his sun lounger in Dubai.
Sam Dickey Rogers, pleased with Hurst. I think you're not on your own there, Sam. Obviously, a lot of people seem to be very, very pleased indeed. Do you think it will mean an end to the Premier League loan strategy? Obviously, Town have had a history of bringing some star loanees from the Premier League the last couple of seasons.
No, it's probably the answer to that one, because I think he's shown at Shrewsbury that the loan market was a big part of the success this year. Obviously, the two young lads on loan from Norwich, Carlton Morris up front and Ben Godfrey in central midfield, have been a key part of Shrewsbury's success this season. The goalkeeper, Dean Henderson, from Manchester United, who may well be available this summer, which is an interesting one. So I think it will be a mixture of young loanees from a step higher, Premier League, to add that bit of star quality, and trusting in some younger players, some lower level players. That's what he did at Shrewsbury, and it will probably be a continuation of that at Ipswich.
If there are any players you think Town should be going for now with the manager in place, obviously as a manager now to start making decisions about personnel, any players you think he should be looking at, higher or lower leagues? Cameron Carter-Vickers coming back online, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? Moving on now to Timothy Cronk. What positions would you like us to strengthen?
Wingers.
Magic. Yeah, wingers. That's
Wingers.
basically the big one, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. Playing with wide men has been a big feature of the way Hurst has wanted to play. I think he had a limited... one of our colleagues there hopefully popping up
Just
in
a
the
guest
background.
appearance there from Mr. Julian Ford, who's a bit of a baller himself.
Yeah, wide men, I think one of the first things he said at Shrewsbury is that he felt he had a shortage of wide players. I think Rodman and Wally have played the majority of games out wide, and I think Hurst felt that he didn't have as many backup options as he wanted there, and I'm sure he'll have a look at this Ipswich Town squad and feel much the same about them. What have we got? Grant Ward, Danny Rowe returning from loan, albeit he's picked up an injury at the back end of last season. I think that is definitely an area, as Andy says, that needs some strengthening.
Neville Wright. Hi guys. Hi Neville.
Hi, Nev.
Good to have you on board. Jackie Calver, lady of the match from the last one of these chats that we had. Been to see the kit, loves the home shirt but not the away kit, even though Luke Chambers looks good in anything he wears. Well, yeah.
I agree.
It remains to be seen how well that kit sells, of course. Cole Crumplin, let's hope we play a good football and not over the top ball. And does he have any money to spend on play? Well, the money obviously, I think it's going to be the same as ever, isn't it?
I think we know it's a similar budget.
But he's used to working on much less.
Yeah,
so
and that's been a key part of the recruitment process, is finding someone that can do that, and he's ticked that box.
He's barely spent a penny at Shrewsbury, has he? And he's been very clear in saying that a low budget is not an excuse, and that it's about getting the best out of what you've got. And I'm sure all those sort of sound bites have been music to Marcus Evans' ears. So I think a lot of what Paul Hurst does, both in terms of personality, style of football, recruitment, will be, and bear with me here, Mick McCarthy-esque. And there will be certain things that he says that will jump off the page and people will say, well, this is just a continuation of Mick. But there are other things that are very different to Mick. Or playing front foot football, I think, is one of the big things. And Paul has been very quick to say that, yes, hard work, discipline, organisation are all buzzwords of his, but he wants that to be a base from which you go and play, and he wants teams to start on the front foot, be it home or away. He has the same philosophy. And he used a really good example after taking West Ham to a replay in the FA Cup, that he said that the way that you combat good teams is by taking the game to them, and he was a big fan of the way Liverpool counteracted Manchester City in the Champions League by getting on the front foot. And I think that will be music to Ipswich Town fans' ears that have got bored of hearing the Mick McCarthy, every point's a prisoner away from home, we can't afford to be 2-0 down, all that sort of stuff. I think Paul Hurst might just try and flip that on its head. So I think he'll take the good stuff from Mick, of which undoubtedly there was lots, but I think there'll be some variations that Ipswich Town fans will be pleased to see.
That is good stuff. Like, being well organised is good. His players loving him is good. Like, they will be buzzwords that people will look and see, oh, it's Mick, but they are good. You just have to have the other side of it as well. And what was that? There was another quote, wasn't there? The joy of playing is going for it.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Essentially is putting a bit of joy back into watching Ipswich Town,
Sounds
which
good
is
to me.
ultimately what he will be judged on. I think is just adding a bit more fun and entertainment back into things and boosting the crowds here. No one's expecting, I don't think, a genuine promotion push next year. I think that, you know, expectations on that level will be tempered, won't they? But as long as he gets a bit of fun back into things, which from everything we've seen and read, I think he will do, hopefully.
George again, do you think Hurst might bring some of his players to Ipswich with him? Now, you've actually looked at this, haven't you, Stu? There's a couple of players at Shrewsbury that may be interesting to Town.
Well, he's done it before, hasn't he, Andy? I think he's certainly taken a lot of his Grimsby players, followed him over to Shrewsbury, and he's someone that I think, once he knows that he can trust someone and he believes in someone, he will take them along with him to the next step. How many of those Shrewsbury team jump off the page as ones that might follow him to Ipswich? I'm not sure, because John Nolan would be the obvious one, who we've discussed, his talismanic midfielder, but Ipswich have got plenty of central midfield options when you throw Dazelle and Downs and Nydam into the mix, with Hughes being fit again, Adeyemi, so I don't really see there being a place for John Nolan. Centre-back is another area that they probably need some more reinforcements. What have we got now? Chambers and Webster, and that's about it with Carter Vickers going, so Toto and Ciala is someone that you mentioned from the Congo, is someone that you said to me straight away that you could see him being someone.
He's come up through non-league Grimsby with Hurst, had a brief dabble with Hartlepool in the Football League, I think, when Grimsby didn't go up one year, and then ended up at Shrewsbury with him, and he was linked with some bigger clubs in January, Sunderland being one. So I think he's a good player, he's rugged, he's loud, and he's good player.
Start to skip through a few of these now, so we're drawing on the time. Where are we? George again, did Stu sign a new contract last summer? I'd like to see Emmanuel at right back next season instead of Spence, and when will captain be announced? I guess those are all decisions down for her.
Signed a new deal recently, didn't he? I think he basically forced Evan's hand by ringing him up directly and saying, I want to get this sorted out for my family's sake and whatnot. So yeah, I think he signed a new contract in the last few months.
What are the other parts of that question?
You'd like to see Emmanuel at right back, which we've talked about before, haven't we?
Wouldn't be against that.
Paul has seen a lot of him in League One this season and saw him close hand in the final on Sunday, so he's got a chance. But you've also got Spence and Barry Cotter in there competing.
Neville Wright says he liked the Waghorn penalty kick in the promo video. Have you both seen that?
I have seen that. It was very good.
It was very impressive.
Please don't do it in a match.
If you've not seen that, get onto Ipswich Town social media and have a look. Certainly don't get Teddy Bishop trying that, because he'll rupture some kind of internal organ.
Don't do it in a match.
That was one that went viral, didn't it, from a non-league game or something that went viral, and now everyone's been trying it out since. But maybe just keep that one on the training pitch.
Julian again, Evan said we'd be doing something different. Now we know it's Hurst. What do you think he meant by that? I guess he means a young up-and-coming manager, which is certainly what Paul Hurst is. Mark Hines, great that we've gone for a young up-and-coming manager. Good luck, Paul. Nice one, Mark. Connor, should we sign Chris Bart-Williams?
No, too old.
Yeah, how old is Chris?
He's probably nearing 50.
He's a veteran.
I liked him though, good player. He did well in his 6 months here.
Absolutely. Mark Hines says he loves front foot football. Nathan King says hello. Hello, Nathan. Can Andy do a Dele Alli wave?
Yes. Didn't ask you, Stu.
Not interested.
I'll stay out of it.
Graham Wigg, let's hope he can get the team to beat City. It's been far too long now. This is going to have to be one of the very first and most important things, isn't it, for Paul Hurst? If he can get a win against Norwich in the derby, it's been, 85 years or whatever since he last beat them. That's going to be a massive tick, isn't it? If you can get that hump out of the way.
Yeah, there's no. If you have that in your first 2 months as an Ipswich manager and you win, you're cooking on gas, aren't you?
Yeah, if you do something that Mick McCarthy couldn't achieve, sadly, in the best part of 6 years within the opening few weeks, months, whenever that fixture is, he'd be flying then, wouldn't he? I mean, if there is any element of doubt, I know we've been stressing that it's almost universally popular today, which I think it is, but I have seen a little element of people that are underwhelmed and have seen it somehow as a cheap option, and which it's not. I honestly don't think that's the case. There was a lot of experienced managers that would have loved this job. It's not a case of he was the best they could get. There was a lot of experienced managers that would have been queuing up for this job, and Marcus Evans has made a conscious decision to go down the Hurst route. But if there is an element of doubt surrounding Paul Hurst and a few people that need to be won over, beating Norwich would surely blow that away quite early on.
Fingers crossed.
Haven't all his appointments been out of work? He's appointed them as well. They have. We're not sure how much yet, but they have gone out and got this man and paid for him.
An attractive compensation package is all they'll say at the moment. So we haven't been given a steer on the figure for that, but I'm sure that will come to light in the near future.
Question of the day, Nathan. Has Stuart learnt the floss yet?
The answer is he has.
He's still working on it. I'm not sure it's ready to be unveiled just yet, is it?
Andy's the king of the floss, but I'm trying to.
He's a dab. We've established that Andy dabs.
I dab. I can't. It takes me too long to get going.
Do you want me to try it?
If you feel able to try it right now, this second,
next time we'll do that after pre-season.
More training's required.
I can only apologise. I thought we were going to get the floss then, but it doesn't look like it. Maybe for pre-season, as they say.
Keep the people wanting more.
Exactly. That's what we're all about. Sean Young, which players do you think Hurst will move on? Goldrick, obviously, looks like he's going to be out the door.
I don't know if he's going to be moving them on or not, or whether they've moved on.
Well, at Shrewsbury, one of the first things he did was move on more experienced players, and he said that, and it's a different scenario because he went in at Shrewsbury when they were rock bottom and there was something that needed fixing, and it's not necessarily the same situation at Ipswich. He's not coming into a team that's down on its luck. It just needs a bit of injection of something to get some momentum going. But one of the first things he did was move on experienced players that maybe have got a bit comfortable, and he brought in hungry players, people that had something to prove, whether they be young loanees or whether they be non-league players that felt that they had something to prove at a higher step. So, in many ways that's what Mick McCarthy's done at Ipswich, so I guess it will be a continuation of that. But as you say, it's a fairly thin on the ground squad now once you take out some of these players that have been released and several loan players who have gone back to their parent clubs. So the bigger task will be filling the gaps rather than moving people on, I think.
He said today he needs to assess what he's got, and I honestly think, as much as I'm sure he's been looking at the Ipswich squad during the time all of this has been linked and discussions have been there and stuff, his mind's been on other things. He's been trying to get Shrewsbury into the Championship, so he will need to assess that squad when he comes back from Dubai to start work.
We've been infiltrated by potentially a Norwich fan here. Matthew Dunn says preparing for Division 1 with 4 laughing, crying faces. Thank you, Matthew. Hopefully that won't be the case. Lewis Hunt Cole. Refreshing to see Paul Hurst is not content with what he knows about the game. He's attending courses to further his knowledge. Is that anything you know anything about?
He's done a journalism course. We know that. I'm not sure what courses he's done to further his knowledge of football. If you know what he's been doing, let us know.
Let us know if he's been doing these courses we don't know about.
He's done a journalism course, which a few players have done, haven't they, Stu? Ipswich's own Gerard Nash, under 23s.
Yeah, currently doing that now. I think Paul was one of the first graduates from Staffordshire Uni when they did this kind of journalism course that was aimed at the former pros. So Scott Minto, Chris Ewalumu. I've had a little chat with Scott this week, who was a former teammate of Paul's at Rotherham as well, about him, so we'll bring you the quotes on that. But we're starting to speak to a lot of people that have worked with Paul, and the buzzwords that are coming up is honest, hard-working, very straight-talking, quite softly spoken. He's not a ranter and a raver, but going back to the point about him doing courses to further himself, I think he's someone that always feels that because of the background he's come from, he's always feeling he's got to prove himself all of the time, and he tries to soak up every bit of knowledge, and it's just thoroughly professional, works all the hours under the sun, and I'm sure he will probably be coming into Ipswich feeling that he has got to keep proving himself because of the background that he's come from, and that's got to be a good thing.
Okay, I think we'll probably leave it there. We've got to most of the questions, I believe. Michael, I think we've already talked about that, and George says McGoldrick's going back to Forest. Again, wouldn't be a surprise. I suppose we best get on because we've got quite a bit to do with tomorrow. Back 5 pages of both papers will be Paul Hurst linked, and obviously we'll be bringing you all the latest online as well. Boys, any final thoughts? Any final business?
What dance are you going to do?
I'll stick to the moonwalk, mate. Classics.
Okay, we'll see that after pre-season as well.
Absolutely. So for Mark Heath, Stuart Watson, Andy Warren, thanks for joining us ever, and we'll see you again. Floss now, Stu.
Got to turn it off. This is the awkward bit where I come over.
Just look away, please.
No, you're not ready. Bye.